Let's go ahead and revert this back to where it was, just in case. I don't want to deal with it doing that by accident at some point in the future. So like I said, first things first, let's create our volumes for it. So coming back up to this thing, we can simply do VDB from polygons. VDB, as I think I started to say in the little demo, this will create a very memory efficient form of a volume that they're going to call a surface volume, but really it means a sine distance function. And there you go. You can see how fast that is. I mean, it's just really fast. So much faster. And you can see obviously the quality is high. I can see the walls represented quite well. So that's great. That's literally pretty much it. So I'll say hide other objects. So this is actually what we're doing. We're just doing the facade, of course. So I can put a null here and say this is the volume collision. Collision, volume collision. Like so. So with that done, I can come back to my popnet here and say the saw path can stay that, but the actually more important one here is over in collisions. Instead of having it do it itself, like that's what right intersect is doing, it's building the volume itself, go to volume sample. Volume sample will now ignore the divisions and most of this. It'll actually only look at this proxy volume thing. So paste that in there. You can see instantaneously, here's that, here's the collision guide, but now it actually looks good. And it's actually quite fast because it's not doing anything anymore. Now it's just sampling a volume that got created for it into its own internal representation of it. So you still will lose some fidelity. It still won't be exactly maybe what you had before, but it'll be pretty close. So that's pretty much it. And that will work. So if we come back here, and I'm going to turn the collision guide back off. Camera. Let's cache this out and see what it looks like. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. I mean, it's literally done. There's no way to really tell unless we do a little flip book. Although I can already see that it's not shooting through the wall on the side. Remember that? So let's see what that looks like. And here's the result. Pretty cool. That's quite good, actually. As I started to say before, we don't have the points coming through the sides here. There's lots of places that we can see it working. For example, right here, where the points are pooling on the top and they're getting tossed up as the ridges themselves are hitting things and changing direction suddenly. So it's good, honestly. You could totally do this, and in fact, you will usually do this. The nice thing about this method is that because the VDB collisions, or I should say rather, the static object when it's doing volume collisions. See, this says collision detection and it says use solver default. The solver default for particles is volume collisions. So the volume collisions are much faster. Faster than what? Well, faster than doing surface/polygon collisions. And that matters because the more detailed your sim is, let's say, like we strove to make it not as detailed by doing this facade thing where we cut out most of the other stuff in the back. But you just might have a more detailed simulation someday. And it doesn't really matter how detailed your sim is or how detailed the polygon geometry is when you're doing volumes, because once you get to the volume stage, it's just a volume. And it all just gets condensed down into a volume representation. You can cache this too. You can make this higher res. We could pretty easily go down to even probably half this resolution, like so. And it's still pretty fast, and it's even more accurate now. So the point is, you will often do this. So I'm just going to keep this here. But I do want to show you how to do it with polygons, because polygons are going to be more accurate. And if it's not too expensive to do, I feel like they tend to look better. And you may disagree. So you'll have an option in any case. If your sim is much more high res, more pieces or whatever, then maybe just continue the lesson doing this volumetric way. Anyway, so let's see what the other way looks like. So coming back in here, and again, even though it says RBD solver, again, just ignore it. So let's take a look at if we had chosen use surface collisions. We turn on show collision radius. It looks like this. Now the reason why anything is coming up is because I left this here before. This isn't really used when we're doing the volume thing. But so the SOP path, if you recall, is pointing to the unpacked polygon geometry that also has velocities on them. So it just, you can see how sharp it is. It's just literally showing us the polygons as they are. There's various properties, as you can imagine, on here. Uh-oh, looked like I skipped to the end by accident. Not sure how that happened. Anyway, coming back on here, so I turned on show collision radius to see that. The higher the radius I do on this, the more it will inflate this kind of stuff. That can improve collision performance at the sake of accuracy. But just keeping it like this, let's see what that gets us. Actually, I won't even waste your time with that. It will work, but what I want to skip ahead to is the way that we're going to do it, which is right now we're pointing to the unpacked polygon geometry. We actually can point to just the packed geometry though this time. The reason why we can do that is because the particle solver has to support collisions with bullet, meaning the rigid body simulation system that we all use here. And bullet is doing packed piece simulations. So the particle sim is actually smart enough, the static object is actually smart enough to know that works. The problem is it won't, the visualization doesn't work, which is a real bummer. Usually when the visualization doesn't work, it tells you that something's wrong. In this case, nothing is wrong. It does work, but the visualization doesn't work. So we can prove that to ourselves simply by running it. So make sure that collision detection is set to use surface collisions. Let's make a different one here, and I'll just call this one surface. This one will take a little bit longer to run, but like I said, I like the result a little bit more. So let's see what that looks like. All right, so that's done. As you probably noticed, definitely takes longer. But yeah, but it seems to have worked, obviously, in any case. So what's different about it? I mean, not a lot. I would say if we run, let me put the thing back here. Well, let's just make a flip book and get it over with. Or I'll keep the old flip book. So you can click this red thing here to mean don't override it. And it'll just instead make a new one. So let's let that run. And there you go. So this is the polygon-based one. I just feel that the points kind of ride along a little bit better on the surface, the way that they contact the surface. Kind of in general, the points, I mean, there's also kind of a buffer from the volumes from before, keeping things away from the surface, which probably explains it in part. You can see it if we make a switch between the two here. Yeah, you can really see it actually more than I thought you were going to see it. So here on the right, when I set this to 1, is the surface one, is the polygon-based one. On the left, you have this. So you can see it's a little bit fuzzier, and everything in general is just stays closer to the surface. Is it a big difference? It's probably not a huge difference. So you really should be okay doing the volume-based one. But again, if you can afford it, I feel like we might as well do the polygon one because I think it is just a little bit better. And to that point, goodbye forever, volume 1. We're just going to keep this one from now on. So that's up to you. I would just suggest using this one. So let's move on to a few more collision related things we're going to do in the next chapter, and then we'll get to the smoke.